Chapter 13. In the beginning, said Megatron, I had no name. He paused to let that sink in. There was no sound in the council chamber. None of us did. We spoke to each other, down in the mines and the smelters, by electronic signature. We indicated each other by function. We have signed each other nicknames. I was D16, named for the sector of the mine where I conducted demolition operations. And then I saw my first match in the gladiator pits. Megatron had spoken exclusively to the council so far. Now he extended an arm backward and up, picking out the crew of industrial bots in the second balcony. That is where I first learned how life was for the lower castes that none of you ever take a nanoclick to consider. Each Cybertronian in that balcony has seen more Cybertronians die himself than the total of you in the rest of the gallery. Our lives are worthless. His voice rose to thunder at this last sentence. Reflexively Halogen tapped his gavel. Until, Megatron said over the echo of the tap of the gavel. Until we decided we had worth. We, the lower castes. We, the bots who die in subsurface mills and factories creating all of the things that you up here take for granted. We learned that we were individuals by facing off against each other in the gladiator pits in Slaughter City and Kaon. And how did we know we were individuals? He waited for a moment to let the question sink in. The chamber was silent again as gallery and council alike awaited Megatron's next flourish. We knew we were individuals because as we killed our opponents in the ring, we saw in their deaths the realization that they were individuals. And so we knew we were, too. In killing, we understood life. In being the most disposable of commodities, a gladiator, whose remains are thrown into the junk pile to be picked over and scavenged, the healthy pieces sold off to brokers in Aiken and Crystal City. In being disposable, we discovered that we had value. Someone would pay us for what we did. Someone would cheer when we killed, and roar in anger when we died. So if our lives had worth, even to others just as worthless as we were, then we had the right to names, Megatron finished. And that is how the sequence of events started that led to me being here before you today. My friend Orion Pax, I thank you for helping our cause gain this platform, and to the High Council, I express my thanks for your time and attention. And with that surprisingly conciliatory ending, or that was how it came across to Orion Pax, in any case, Megatron fell silent, awaiting questions. They were not long in coming. In what way are you linked to the terrorist bombings of 6 lasers and other sites a few megacycles ago? Asked Contrail. I had nothing to do with those actions, Megatron said. An issue like this one raises intense passions. I myself feel passionately about it. The difference between me and those who would bomb 6 lasers is that I channel my passions in a direction that I think will be better for all Cybertronians. I disavow any act that does not ultimately herald a new and better era on Cybertron. A clever phrasing, Orion Pax thought. He remembered his conversation with Megatron in which Megatron had pointed out that the existence of extremists made him look reasonable by comparison. Here was the proof, that he could stand here in front of the High Council and make pronouncements about the value of individuality while guild representatives shifted noisily in the front rows of the floor area. Clearly you are exceptional, especially for one of your caste, Contrail parried. Are you not responsible if your rhetoric excites those unfortunates without your willpower, though? Do you not have the same kind of responsibility that this council and its members have, if your leadership position is to be taken seriously? What you have to worry about is what will happen if my leadership is not taken seriously, said Megatron. It would seem that we have seen that already, interjected a new voice, the rumbling drivetrain. One of the patriarchs of the group loosely known as the Constructicons, drivetrain originated in the middle castes associated with building and civil engineering. His influence on the High Council was the result of long service and gradual acceptance among the other members, who by and large came from higher castes associated with science, arts, and government. I will say it again. I had nothing to do with those bombings or with the attack on the Altihix Station Casino. Megatron stood resolute. Orion Pax couldn't decide whether to admire him or be scandalized that he could stand up in front of the High Council and ignore the truth. He saw motion at the back of the gallery and noted that Soundwave had entered, a mini-con perched on either shoulder. The mini-cons scampered down Soundwave's arms and disappeared into the crowd. "You will say it again, and I will disbelieve it again," Drivetrain said. "Would you have me believe that your co-conspirator, a data clerk in the House of Records, masterminded an invasion and kidnapping using a force of bots who identified themselves as Decepticons and specifically proclaimed their allegiance to you?" "Decepticon?" echoed Megatron. "An interesting name." "You would think so," Drivetrain pressed him. "Since it was you who coined it, was it not?" Megatron drew himself up to his full height. He was larger than most Cybertronians, and the diffuse light of the council chamber made his combat scars seem silvery, almost luminous. "I would say that you should implicate neither me nor my friend Orion Pax until you have facts. What other bots might have said means nothing to me. But if the term Decepticon is to be laid at my feet, I accept it," he said. "Sometimes deception is necessary, when those who should listen to the truth will not, and will only understand once they have been lied to and forced to see their own lies." "Very well, Drivetrain. You have provoked him," Ratbat said. He looked around, making a show of waiting for other counselors to speak. None did. Orion Pax thought in that moment that all of it was a charade, that they were never going to get anything from the council. That if there was to be a war, it had been decided before any of them had entered the chamber. Perhaps even before Alpha Trion had succeeded in gaining them the invitation. A shouting match had erupted while Orion Pax was distracted by Ratbat's sumptuous blathering about choice and collective good. "What the High Council has so far failed to understand is that it is our right." Megatron boomed over the sound of Halogen's gavel. "Each and every Cybertronian has a right to question the Council's actions, and to demand change when those actions fall short of the Council's mandate." With that, apparently a parting shot in a salvo much of which Orion Pax had missed, Megatron paused. "What say the guilds?" croaked the ancient Halogen. "Representative of the guilds, Sigil speaking," said a Cybertronian even more ancient and doddering than Halogen. They had emerged from the well on the same day, it was said, and had ever since backed each other whenever conflict arose. "Speak, Sigil," the High Council droned in unison. "The guilds claim the right that is theirs." Sigil indicated the assembled heads of the guilds, who administered the castes and exercised absolute control over which newly born Cybertronians were routed into which castes. For thousands of orbits and more, since the disappearance of the primes, in fact, the guilds of Cybertron have guided the populace in their decisions about life and work. Without the guilds, there would be no developed civilization. There would be no space bridges. There would be no Hydrax Plateau spaceport. There would be no moon bases. There would be no Teltron 1, and no city of Iacan to house it. He turned to address the council, after having played to the gallery during the first part of his speech. "Can one criminal, one gladiator with the deaths of how many innocents on his conscience, can this killer be suffered to undermine what Primus himself decreed when he created this planet and seated all Cybertronians on it through the well of all sparks?" The grid fed his words out across Cybertron, and the planet itself seemed to be listening. In the sonic canyons, a hush fell over the repair crews working on Vector Sigma's interface. As he spoke, Sigil seemed to gain strength. "The guilds have overseen the prosperity of all Cybertronians, and created a framework within which any individual Cybertronian can find his role in our society. If every criminal malcontent is given the chance to upend what we have spent megacycles working to maintain, then I fear for the future of our civilization. I fear for Cybertron itself." A rumble of approval and discontent swept through the council hearing chamber. Halogen gavelled the audience back to silence and pointed the gavel at Orion Pax. "Here is another come to testify," he rumbled. "What say you, Orion Pax, clerk at the Hall of Records in Iacan?" "I say first that Sigil makes no friends among unhappy Cybertronians because he is as pompous as any spark ever has been," Orion Pax said. He was angry at Sigil's mischaracterizations and he had decided that, with everything there was at stake, it would be useless to hide it. He had a reputation of being level-headed and calm. With any luck, his show of anger would register with the council and bring home to them the degree to which many Cybertronians sympathized with the burgeoning anti-caste movement and, specifically, with the charismatic figure of Megatron. Moving from his spot next to the wall, Orion Pax worked his way through the crowd and down the center aisle, speaking as he walked and as other members of the audience made way for him. He thought he could see subtle signs of encouragement from many of them, and he knew he could see simple hate on the faces of some. "You claim for the guilds the power to determine the lives of every Cybertronian," Orion Pax said. "Is this what the 13 would have wanted? Is it any coincidence that as the guilds rose in power and the castes became entrenched, Cybertron lost contact with the rest of the Transformer worlds? As you confine each Cybertronian into a smaller and smaller space, with less and less room to go and see and do what he might want, you create a world in which no one knows how to look beyond anymore. No one knows how to imagine." "I can imagine an end to this session," Ratbat called out. Laughter boomed through the chamber. Orion Pax looked around, fearing that he had lost the goodwill of the audience. And that was when he saw Jazz, squarely in the middle of the lowest balcony, his bright colors standing out. Jazz put one hand out and made a fist. "Be strong." Orion Pax turned back to the council. He had considered the possibility of delivering a speech, and even given some thought to what he might say, but now that the moment had come he had no idea how to begin. So he began simply. "Fellow Cybertronians, members of the council, hear me. Megatron speaks harshly but true. He has seen the truth of life for many Cybertronians whose lives are all too often invisible, and if he is angry, it is anger born of love for an ideal and spark deep pain at our failure of that ideal. The recent attacks were savage and inexcusable, yet they were only symptoms. The unrest spreading across Cybertron will not stop with these attacks because it is the natural expression of a people who for too long have been held in check, their potential forever unrealized because of the false constraints of caste and guild. It is natural for a being born with spark to know that it should be free. And it is natural that Cybertronians, who are born to change from one form to another, should want to be able to change their roles within Cybertronian society as a whole. If castes and guilds fight change, they fight our own nature, and the nature of Cybertron itself. The absence of change is not stability. It is entropy. Only dead things stay the same. No Cybertronian is simply the mechanical sum of his parts. From the smallest minicon to the mightiest combiner, from the simplest data processor to the scientists who teach us the laws of the universe, each of us contains a living spark that makes us who we are, not simply what we are. The spark within us awakens us to the possibility of freedom. It makes us alive to the idea that we might choose what we shall become, as each of you did, counselors. Why should we not? One bot's freedom can never be given or taken away by another. This goes against the very nature of the spark, the very nature of Cybertron itself. In the past, in times of great need, noble Cybertronians rose to become prime and lead our civilization out of crisis. Most recently, Sentinel Prime, once one of this chamber's honorable elite guard, united all Cybertronians against a dire threat. High counselors fought alongside smelters and data clerks then, to drive off an invader. What did this invader want? To enslave us, to turn us into property, to deprive us of our fundamental spark-given right of self-determination. Have we driven the quintessence off only to enslave ourselves by caste and guild? And will we crush this new movement toward freedom, sacrificing freedom for order? I say no. Order achieved through force can never be a true peace. There can be no true peace through tyranny. The time has come for all Cybertronians to be united again, and I say we need a new prime to unite us. We do not need a prime who moves us as if we were parts of a great machine, who demands that we be drones and slaves as the price of a peace that is only stasis. The guild masters and keepers of the castes do that more than adequately, and look where they have gotten us. Cybertron needs a leader of the free, a prime who recognizes that all Cybertronians are autonomous robots, owned by no one but themselves, masters of their own fates. I will say it again. Autonomous robots. We will remember this moment, in this council chamber, as the moment where free robots broke the welds of oppression that had taken the beauty of the spark away from us. We are all autonomous robots today, Autobots, if we need a name to rally around, and we Autobots declare that a spark once freed will never again stand to be oppressed. You must choose a new prime today. Choose well, for a prime might either lead Cybertron to a new golden era in our history, or stand by as the dark energies of anger and resentment explode into planet-wide chaos and war. Members of the council, the choice is yours. I wish you wisdom. He knew he had spoken well because when he finished, the council chamber was silent. Even those bots Orion Pax knew to be his enemies were forced to consider what he had said. The knowledge of this overcame him in the nanoclicks immediately following that last sentence. Orion Pax raised both arms, fists clenched, and thundered, for Cybertron. Autobots. Over the pounding of Halogen's gavel, the crowd erupted. Autobots. For freedom. Autobots. Autobots. It started high up in the gallery, beyond where Megatron's oldest and most loyal followers were clustered. Autobots. And from there it spread. Autobots. 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 This time it took nearly a full cycle before Halogen and the other counselors could gavel the gallery back to silence. And Orion Pax noticed something odd. When he caught Megatron's eye, he was expecting approbation. Instead he saw anger on his friend's face, and did not know why. Surely, brother, he thought, it is more important to accomplish our goal than it is for us to agree on every mode of our method? He did not know if that was what had angered Megatron, but Orion Pax knew his friend, and he knew that they would have words. If not during the course of the High Council hearing, then after. Megatron clearly had something on his mind, and he was not a Cybertronian who kept his emotions to himself. At least not for long.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you guys want to watch more like it, please subscribe to my channel and become part of the video game fanfiction plot. And please leave a comment down below and hit that like button. If you guys have any suggestions on any stories you guys want me to read, don't hesitate. They're always welcome here in the video game fanfic plot. That also goes for video games. Until next time, goodbye!